I flung my legs against cold, arduous ground, running until I felt like my lungs could burst. Then the echoes of footsteps alerted me from the distance, and I rushed to hide in the bushes. I poked my head out from behind the bush to get a closer look, and I saw enemy soldiers in a group. Had the enemies followed us all the way out here?
なんだ、どうかしたのか？
いや、何か物音が聞こえたような。気のせいか？
どうせ獣か何かじゃないのか？
そうだな。
The enemy soldiers spoke casually amongst themselves as they hiked down the trailway. I felt a great sense of relief as their footsteps grew further away, and I exhaled greatly. Suddenly, I was struck with the memory of moments I shared tenderly with Iba.
何かあれば手紙で知らせてくださいね。どこにいても急いで駆けつけますから。そんな顔、あなたには似合いませんよ。今の状況を考えると難しいかもしれませんが、元気を出してください。本当なら無理やりにでもあなたを連れて行きたいところなんですけど、そうすればきっとあなたを一生後悔させてしまうことになる。
Iba had always shown me tremendous kindness, and he seemed to want what was best for me. If he were somewhere nearby, I could really use him in a time like this. However, expecting to find him at the moment felt like such a tough endeavor. So rather than lingering on that, I need to focus on getting these documents to Osaka Castle without letting anyone catch me beforehand. I mustered all my power and started running again. There was no way I could continue running. My heart nearly burst from my chest, and my throat was so dry that it felt like I'd swallowed sand. However, there was no time to rest. I haven't a moment to waste, and I needed to head to Osaka Castle as soon as possible. But my body didn't seem like it had anything left in it to get myself there. My exhaustion had consumed me, and as I lost my strength, I leaned against a tree to support myself. Every ounce of energy left in me was leaving me, one painful ache at a time. A familiar, soothing voice called out to me from afar. A voice belonging to someone I'd longed for dearly. Were my ears playing tricks on me? Was I hallucinating? My legs gave out, and as I was about to crumple to the stony ground, a pair of warm arms caught me delicately. And then...
やっぱりあなたでしたか。まさかとは思いましたが。
Iba? Surely I was hallucinating, but I wasn't. His hands held me tightly, giving me great comfort. His warmth almost rejuvenated me. This couldn't be a hallucination. Iba was here. He'd come back for me. What are you doing here? We're some way from Yodo.
もしかしたらあなたももう知っているかもしれませんが、幕軍は各所で総崩れとなり撤退を始めています。僕たちは前線から撤退する他の隊の援護に向かっていたんです。
After Iba had informed of all that transpired, he looked at me sweetly, asking me a question.
君はどうしてここに、しかもたった一人で。もしかして新選組にトシさんたちに何かあったんですか？
Hijikata-san, And the others are... I calmed my ragged breathing in order to get Iba up to speed. So, the Shinsengumi were holding their lines at the magistrate so I could escape. I must deliver this to Osaka Castle. I tightly gripped the knot of my knapsack tied around my back snugly.
それはもしかして例の
I nodded curtly, nervous to answer. Just then...
こんなところにいたんだね。
Ah, fuck. Suddenly, Father had appeared out of nowhere, which startled me greatly. I could only assume that for my father to make him to me so quickly, Inoue gave his life fighting.
あなたはコードさんですか？
私を知っているのかね。
はい。幼い頃、あなたの診療所にお邪魔させてもらったことがあります。伊庭八郎と申します。
My father's eyes thinned as the memory returned to him.
おお、あの伊庭道場の子か。ずいぶんと立派になったね。再会を祝したいところだが、今は一刻を争う状況でね。娘をこちらへ渡してくれるかな。
渡せとは穏やかではないですね。どういうことですか？
Iba became immediately suspicious of father. Out of the darkness emerged Takeda, like a ghoul summoned from the shadowy mist.
ようやく会えたな、伊庭八郎。この日を心待ちにしていたぞ。
As Iba watched Takeda appear, his eyes widened with surprise.
あれだけの怪我を負って生きていたのですか？
生きていた？違うな。生き返らされたのだよ。お前をなぶり殺すためにな。
Takeda laughed maniacally, and his right arm, previously severed by Iba, reached for his sword. And then... Takeda sprung from where he stood, charging towards Iba with a frightful lunge.
腕だと。
Iba quickly drew his katana out of defense. As their blades met, sparks scattered above them, and the steel hissed with each strike. What is going on? I was dumbfounded as well. I saw Iba cut Takeda's arm off.
どうなってるんだ？その腕は確かに僕が。
何か言いたそうだな。そんなに私の腕が気になるか？
Takeda smirked sadistically, his eyes gazing down upon Iba as he broke into laughter. Just then, I remembered something Sanan-san said.
武田君は少し前の私に似ています。これ以上追い詰めるべきではありません。まあ確かに己の立場を笠に着て威張り散らすあたりは小物以外の何者でもありませんが、窮鼠猫を噛むという言葉もありますからね。油断しないに越したことはありません。
Sanan-san had informed me that Takeda's behavior followed a similar path to his own. Sanan-san too had lost his left hand, ending, as he thought at the time, his life as a swordsman. However, Sanan-san was able to wield his blade once more because of... Iba! Run! I screamed out for him, but... Yo, there was no sound effect. The sound effect was missing. Takeda's hair bleached to a brilliant white, and his eyes morphed into red pools. Then... Iba's sword was effortlessly smacked out of his hands.
たわいもないな。
Takeda wore a confident, menacing grin. Sakura, don't tell me that you drank the water of life. My voice quivered as I asked him.
半分は正解だが半分は外れだよ。彼の腕は骨も剣も完全に断ち切られていた。いくら落ち水でも失われた腕を取り戻すことはできない。
Then how?
私が行っていたのは羅刹を生み出す研究だけではない。羅刹をさらに強化するにはどうすればいいか、それを研究していたのだよ。失われた腕を再生させることはできるのか、あるいは他の者の腕を代用することができるのかをね。
The man standing before me wasn't the kind, loving father I'd grown up knowing. The words coming from his mouth were something else entirely. I shuddered. Is this man really my father?
人間の腕で代用することはできなかった。だが、人とは比べ物にならぬ生命力を持った者の腕ならばどうだろう。
A creature that surpasses human strength? As I'd ask, Takeda chimed in.
ちょうどいい。お前にも見せてやろうではないか。人知を超える力をこの私にもたらしたこの鬼の腕をな。
Takeda flexed his right arm, which was wrapped in thick, bloody bandages. As the bandages were torn off the arm, we all witnessed a gruesome abomination that was placed where Takeda's arm used to be.
バカ。
He no longer looked like a human, and Aba was frightened by the intimidating display.
どうだ？私は変わったぞ。力を手に入れた。貴様など相手にならぬほどの力を。
Aba remained in his fighting stance, and he fixed his gaze at Takeda.
お前は変わっていないな、伊庭八郎。人もまともに切れぬ道場剣術のままだ。
Oh man. Aba, watch out! An electric duel erupted between Aba and Takeda as their clashing blades echoed through the mountains. Aba kept up with the pace of Takeda's swing somewhat, parrying each strike well, but then...
遅いな。まるで水から這い上がってきた亀のようだぞ。
It was clear whose strength was greater. Takeda's technique better resembled a wild beast. He left Aba no room to breathe. Aba! I tried running up to him.
行くんじゃない。もし巻き込まれたらどうするんだ。
My father grabbed my arm and held me back. Please, let me go. At this rate, Aba will... I screamed frantically.
そういえば貴様は私の腕を切り落としてくれたな。そう。
Aba cried in anguish as his blood splattered wildly. I couldn't just sit and watch him in pain. I pushed my father away to run towards Aba. Aba! Aba! Please tell me you're alright, Aba! His left arm was sliced open, leaving what looked like a severe disfigurement. Even I could see that it would be impossible for Iba to ever wield a sword again. The bone was snapped, and its flesh and muscles were torn apart, oozing blood on the rocks. Even then, Iba had the strength to grit his teeth, holding his pained groans back. I'm sure that his pain was agonizing. I'm surprised he hadn't fainted from the shock. He wielded such incredible courage and willpower to maintain consciousness. It was nearly godlike.
どうだ伊庭八郎、この私と同じになった気分は。名門道場の跡取りが見る影もないな。貴様はもう一生刀を握れまい。
Takeda sneered over Iba, laughing to himself. Somehow Iba was able to return his taunts with a fierce glance.
なんだその目は。気に入らんな。左腕だけではなく、右腕も切り落としてほしいと見える。それともその化け物娘をお揃いにしてやる方がいいか。
As soon as Iba heard Takeda's insult, his eyes became thirsty for vengeance. Father, who had been standing behind Takeda, spoke out in a low tone.
武田君
It seemed like my father was reminding him of something, and Takeda became disinterested.
分かっている。この娘はもっと大切な役目があるというのだろう。
Takeda stepped towards me. Iba's face warped in pain and he struggled to get up. However, it seemed like Iba couldn't balance himself well and he fell back to the ground. Iba! I ran up to him and lifted his head up.
無様だな。その片腕でまだ抗うつもりか。
Oops. I don't mind skipping Takeda's lines. Iba's eyes still burned with righteous fury, and he snapped back at Takeda.
まだ僕には右腕が残っている。たとえ腕をもがれようと、足を落とされようと、僕が彼女を守らない理由にはならない。
I wanted to tell him that he needed to conserve his strength, but I held back from stopping him. He looked up at me and smiled warmly.
約束しましたから。小さな頃に君と。
The tender glow of nostalgia began to sparkle inside of me. What were those words? What happened to me when I was little?
さて、それでは手早く済ませるか。想像以上にあっけなかったな。
Takeda raised his blood-stained sword in the air before swinging it towards us. Then,
まさか自分が殺されそうになっても約束を守る人間がいるとは思わなかったわ。あの時の彼女を守るって言葉は嘘じゃなかったみたいね。
that voice. Sen!
遅くなっちゃってごめんなさいね。あなたたちの行方を追うのに意外と手間取っちゃって。
Sen silently shot a grim look towards my father. Her voice loomed over us all, as he carried with it a declaration directed towards my father.
雪村家の暴流筋がヤセの里から鬼の腕を奪っただけではなく、それに羅刹を与えるとは。恥を知りなさい。
Yase village? Demon's arm? I had no idea what Sen was talking about. However, it seemed as though she was well informed of the subtext in father and Takeda's relationship.
お前がやっていることは鬼の一族に対する裏切りよ。相応の覚悟はできているんでしょうね。
何のことやら。私などのことにかかずらっておられるよりも、そちらの彼を手当てして差し上げた方が良いのでは。
Sen gasped, turning towards us. As father had pointed out, Iba's bleeding hadn't ceased and his skin turned completely pale. At this rate, it was obvious that he had only moments left to live. Kimigiko whispered in Sen's ear.
姫様、ここは私が食い止めます。早く二人を安全な場所へ。
おきく。
For a brief second, Sen's eyes were colored by what looked like anxiety. But immediately, she returned to her noble state.
わかったわ。できるだけ時間を稼いでちょうだい。そして必ず帰ってきて。
Kimigiko answered with a confident smile.
承知しました、姫。
Sen then lent me her shoulder.
さあ、急ぎましょう。
I nodded back at Sen and I got up, lending Eva support with my shoulders. Just then,
死に損ないがやすやすと逃がすと思うか。
Takeda sprinted with the speed of a fury in order to intercept us, but then,
あなたの相手はこの私です。人の世の歴史には関わってはならぬというのが鬼の定めとはいえ、鬼の腕を手にしたあなたはもはや人とは呼べぬ存在。全力で勝負に臨ませていただきます。
この私に勝てるとでも思っているのか。身の程知らずめ。まあいい。古き時代の鬼が持っていた比類なき力、その身でしかと確かめるがいい。